Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and as foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Well, today we've got prison for profits, cyber warfare, hacking your car, expensive coffee from a interesting place that we'll hear about a little bit later, undercover anti-abortion videos, and more in today's broadcast. We're going to start it off today with prisons for profit in the news yet once again, and just how in bad shape the system really is. Well, since 1971, the U.S. population has ballooned in size due to the U.S.'s efforts of the war on drugs. Currently, more than 50% of the people that are arrested for drug-related charges. Keep in mind that the United States accounts for only about 4.4% of the world's population, but houses about 22% of the world's prison population. In fact, an increasing number of prisons in the U.S. are privately run for-profit prisons.
Well, 19.1% of federal inmates and 6.8% of state inmates are housed in privately run prisons. Johan Harry, a journalist and author, says that both the government-run and privately run prisons are in atrocious conditions. Now, they also say that over half of the people in the U.S. have broken the drug laws, but of course, you can't house 50% of the population.
Sure.
So, who are the targets? The most disliked and the most despised minorities, the people that are the easiest to pick on.
Interesting. Well, in Russia, that's the drug addicts. In the United States, the minority that tends to get picked on is African Americans and Latinos. And although African Americans are no more likely to use drugs than anyone else, they're far more likely to go to prison for it. He concluded by saying that it's easiest to arrest the ones who can't get good lawyers, that is, the ones who can't afford good lawyers, and who defend or get defended the least.
Now, on the recent shooting in Chattanooga, Tennessee, people are wondering, how do we fix the problem of radicalized lone wolf crimes? Well, General Wesley Clark says we have to identify the people who are most likely to be radicalized and cut this off at the beginning. There are always a certain amount of young people who are alienated, and there are members of the community who will reach out to them and help them to realize their blessings here.
Sounds like definitely a great approach for prevention. Well, but on the national policy level, we need to look at them and what self-radicalization means, because we are at war with this group of terrorists, and they do have an ideology. The general continued in World War II, if someone supported Nazi Germany, we didn't call it freedom of speech. We put them in a camp. They were prisoners of war. So if these people are radicalized and don't support the United States as a matter of principle, well, that's for them and that's their right. But it's our right to segregate them, he said, from the normal community for the duration of the conflict.
Not only in the U.S., but our allied nations like Britain, Germany, and France are going to have to look at their domestic law procedures, he concluded.
Well, radicalized youth are not our only concern. What about your car? There's millions of them out on the road. Now, what would you do if your car was hacked and all of a sudden while you're driving down the road, you lost your brakes? You had no control of your steering. Well, two cybersecurity experts in an example of how easily a vehicle's computer system can be invaded demonstrated their abilities to do that very thing.
The experimental car, a Jeep. Charlie Miller and Chris Valesic are ethical hackers who spent 3 years looking for vehicle vulnerabilities. Now, the men hacked Fiat, Chrysler's, Jeep, the Uconnect computer systems, found an estimated 471 1,000 cars and trucks. Now, they were even able to cut off the brakes, sending the Jeep rolling into a ditch. Now, the automaker says that it has released a software update that offers customers the improved vehicle electronic security. So, hoping that they'll gain the security back of the people that are buying the vehicles.
Yeah, you want to have that peace of mind while you're on the road, that's for sure. Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey just introduced legislation mandating vehicle cybersecurity and vehicle protection. He said that we should put the safety measures in place before we have the catastrophic accidents that will force us to put those measures in place. The hackers were able to get into the vehicle's system through the head unit in the dash there, right in the kind of center console. And for years, automakers said that it wasn't possible to move from the head unit to the driving controls. Well, that theory, Jeff, was just proven invalid.
Well, Germany has released a strategy paper detailing how it's planning to go to war, but not in another country, instead online. Berlin says cyber attacks have been an increasing threat to their national security. Now, according to the Norse Corporation and the real-time map they have on their site, global attacks are being launched every second. A former MI5 agent, Annie Maschen, says it's not entirely clear who Germany will be fighting against.
As she continued, we know that Germany itself has been attacked aggressively by the NSA and GCHQ. Germany itself has been targeting and attacking and intercepting. But who precisely are they targeting now, and why is the Army getting involved as well as the BND? The objective and scale of attacks have been of increasing concern lately.
Well, those hacking targets range from power grids, drones, nuclear facilities, airports, and even hospitals. Maschen says that cyber warfare has the potential to damage an entire nation. Now, she says most people underestimate what the cyber warfare can do because of our country's infrastructure is run over the internet and by computers. Now, banking centers, traffic lights, and so forth, they're all run by these computer systems.
Right.
So if cyber warfare is waged against a nation state, then that whole nation state can collapse.
Yeah, I'm sure causing great chaos in all levels.
Absolutely.
That's right. She concluded this is a very effective way of waging warfare if they, that being Berlin, decide to do it. And of course, the follow-up would be with more conventional warfare. So they're planning to try to hit them, or at least she's suggesting they should hit them on both fronts, in the cyber world and in the real world.
Well, an anti-abortion group is turning up the heat on Planned Parenthood, accusing them of selling tissue and organs from aborted babies for profit, which is illegal. Now, the group has proof on video to back up its claims. The video shows an undercover interview with Planned Parenthood official Dr. Mary Gatter, as she details different abortion methods to best preserve the fetal organs and tissue.
Dr. Gatter says the clinics are not providing the tissue to medical researchers for a profit, saying, "We're not in it for the money." However, in the video, she can be heard haggling over the price, then joking about buying an expensive sports car, commenting, "I want a Lamborghini."
Well, selling fetal tissue for profit or changing an abortion procedure to better harvest organs are both illegal. Planned Parenthood argues that it is legally providing the fetal tissue to medical researchers, and any fees that they bring in are just to cover their own costs.
New York University Dr. Arthur Kaplan questions the Planned Parenthood if they should be in business of providing fetal tissues, period, saying you've got to be sure that it's the patient, the woman, who is at the center of your concern, and nothing else is diverting from that. Supplying fetal tissue from the remains to third parties is diverting. I wouldn't do it.
Well, Congress is investigating Planned Parenthood, and the leader of the anti-abortion group said that they will be releasing up to 10 more videos in the weeks to come.
Well, when a woman reports a rape, physical evidence can be extracted from the victim's body in what is known as a rape kit. Authorities are then able to examine the evidence, which may contain the valuable DNA of the perpetrator. There have been stories over the years of cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Detroit facing massive backlogs of untested rape kits.
A new investigation by the USA Today media network finds at least 70,000 rape kits remain untested in more than 1,000 different police departments. And keep in mind that there are roughly like 18,000 police departments around the country.
That's an awful lot. But that's not all. 34 states have never even taken an inventory of its untested kits, still sitting on their shelves. And police in 44 states have no guidelines of when to test rape kits.
Well, from police matters to politics, YPN's Larry McGee has our coverage on the former vice president who's calling for nukes and the world's most populous nation, which might also be a target. Larry, what do you have for us today?
A visibly frustrated Dick Cheney shook his head this week in an interview with reporters in responding to the recent nuclear deal brokered by the current president with Iran. The former VP set aside tact and diplomacy to use harsh language in criticism of the president's position, calling the president's recent statement that we have stopped the proliferation of nuclear weapons in the Mideast a lie. The former presidential shotgun says that Iran will end up with the nuclear weapon, and according to his thinking, that will then provoke other nations in the region to seek nukes to defend themselves against the ancient nation of Persia. According to Mr. Cheney, President Obama has sanctioned the acquisition of a nuclear weapon by Iran, and rather immediately or eventually, that is going to produce a defensive escalation of weapons in the region, which will put us closer to the use of nuclear weapons than in any time period since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Following the VP's statement, liberal talk show hosts had a field day and pointed out the irony of the conservatives' position that the president's New Deal will cause nuclear war when the very details of the agreement are designed to put a stop to the proliferation of nuclear weaponry in an effort to prevent it. For the corporate warhawks who delight in war, there is no preventing the fact that Beijing is competition, and as Moscow is being increasingly isolated from the European community related to Ukraine and other issues, a powerhouse merger has begun forming between the Russian bear and the red dragon, which rivals the system in operation throughout the West. Over the last 3 decades, China has materialized from the dust of poverty to become the world's second largest economy. By 2018, it is slated to become the first, but a rapidly expanding economy has needs, the foremost of which is energy, and that is where the bear and the dragon become a pair. The two are currently working to produce a Siberian pipeline, which would furnish 38 billion cubic meters of gas, for a fee, of course, to China over the course of the next 30 years. The alliance is also collaborating to produce additional deals, which will translate into billions for the newly annexed Crimea. Eastern analysts are predicting the emergence of a new Silk Road and the coming of a Eurasian century based on the partnership of China and Russia, which has the potential to reshape the international economic landscape. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan, Jeff, back to you.
Wow. Well, it's definitely clear that more and more people are starting to see that nuclear war is definitely on the horizon. Oregon climate experts are calling it a worst-case scenario. This historic drought and record heat wave out west is causing a disaster for area salmon and trout. Rivers are already low due to record low snowpack, but in addition, a survey of more than 50 rivers in Oregon, California, and Washington shows 3/4 of them are above 70 degrees, which could be potentially deadly for the fish.
Forecasters are expecting the warmer and drier than normal weather to continue. Wildlife biologists from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service call these quote, a perfect storm of bad conditions for salmon and trout. So one expert's advice, Katan, pray for both rain and snow.
Well, that's interesting. Well, everyone enjoys a nice cup of coffee in the morning to help you wake up, but our next report might make you want to go back to bed. Kopi Luwak, the most mysterious, expensive coffee on earth. So expensive that people in the United States are willing to pay $90 for a single serving of this exotic delicacy. This should be interesting.
Well, where does this coffee come from? From the droppings, yes, poop of Indonesian civet cats. Now, the cats are fed a diet of fresh, ripe coffee cherries, then their digestive system imparts a smooth body and aroma to the beans. Now, next, their droppings are collected and dried and sell for up to $250 a pound.
Wow. Well, Rocky Rhodes, a professional coffee consultant, says in this case, quality is not the driving factor for price, obviously. It's supply, demand, and hype. Rocky Rhodes coffee consultant and master taster does not believe the Luwak Coffee hype, and when put to the test against other brands of coffee, came in an embarrassing 4th place.
Well, this big business comes at a big price for the cats, according to animal rights groups who say captivity takes a serious toll on the civets. Now, the vast majority of civet farms cage their animals to control production, keeping their cats caged 24/7.
Wow. Well, when you come across a strange bug on the sidewalk, what's your first thought? One man from Oregon, Robert Palmer, was to squash it under his cane. But then he reconsidered, thinking it looked pretty weird. So instead, he snapped some pictures of it and carried the caterpillar around town to show his friends.
Well, nowadays, just about everything is Photoshopped, but Mr. Palmer insists this bug is authentic. Now, he related to a reporter, "I couldn't even hardly send you guys the picture. I had to come down here and have the girls do that for me." Well, what was so different about this bug? It appears to have a face on its back. Now, it didn't take long for people to start suggesting whose face it was.
That's right. One woman said it was creepy. To her, it looked like Robin Williams. Mr. Palmer related some more interesting guesses. My doctor said it looked like Edgar Allan Poe. One lady told me it looked like the devil. He said I didn't want to do nothing with her if she had seen the devil.
But Bob was just interested to find out what kind of worm it was. Well, he sent the photos he took off to the local bug experts, and so far no one has been able to tell him just what he's found.
Wow. Well, he jokingly shared, "I was going to ask when I get to heaven how many of my family made it. Now I'm going to ask about this bug, the first thing."
Well, while the face on the back of the caterpillar might be unrecognizable to some, the face of Yisrael Hawkins is being more and more recognized each day. Now, as he continues to explain Bible prophecy and shows the causes of today's problems, both scientists and doctors take notice of his extraordinary knowledge coming straight from the inspired scriptures. We'll read for yourself the writings of Yisrael Hawkins by obtaining your free copy of the monthly newsletter and Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. You can also visit them on any of their websites, www.yahweh.com, www.yisraelhawkins.com, or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can also check out our new website at www.ypnnews.com. And to email them, that is the House of Yahweh, send your emails to info@yahweh.com. And for any calls outside the United States, please call the number on your screen.
Well, from all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for watching.